Hey, guess what I saw yesterday? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Yesterday is a story of Jake Malik, a down on his luck musician who happens to be the only person to remember the Beatles after a worldwide blackout. From the trailers, this movie looked like a sad, pathetic attempt to make fans of the Beatles feel special, and it absolutely is. However, I was surprised that there were things I actually liked. The main cast was great, and it was fun watching them interact with one another. There were also plenty of jokes that made me laugh, which I did not expect from what is essentially Kids Today Don't Know What Real Music Is, the movie. That being said, there's still a lot wrong with this film. For starters, there's Ed Sheeran. I don't want to look at Ed Sheeran, and I especially don't want to look at him in a movie centered on good music. I wouldn't be so mad if he had a cameo, but he plays an integral part of the story. Not only does the climax happen at an Ed Sheeran concert, but one of his songs is played over the most intimate scene of the movie. No, they didn't play a Beatles song or Wonderwall, the song that the movie establishes as being meaningful to the main characters. They had to play an Ed Sheeran song. Sorry if I sound bitter. Watching Ed Sheeran in this movie just made me realize I hate him. Anyways, the problems really start to stack up with the main conflicts. The conflicts that yesterday sets up don't hold any weight and don't make any sense. A big part of what plagues Jake is that he feels guilty because he's taking credit for other people's work. But this is ridiculous. The Beatles as a musical group do not exist. So what's there to be guilty about? He is literally the only person on earth who could possibly take credit for these songs, so it barely even registers as a conflict at all. The second conflict presented seems to work a little better, but it falls apart when you really think about it. Jake's childhood friend and love interest, Ellie, tells him that he has to choose between her or being a rock star. This is a classic dilemma, but it doesn't work because Ellie has acted as Jake's manager for nearly 10 years. There's even a scene where Ellie convinces Jake not to give up on his dream despite having a lack of success. So why does she want to make him give up on his dream now? Is she a hipster who liked Jake when he was underground but hates that he went mainstream? I'd buy this conflict if fame had turned Jake into a self-centered jerk, but it doesn't. Jake is a nice guy who genuinely wants to spend time with Ellie, but he's just busy. You know, like famous musicians tend to be. I find it so odd that these conflicts are bad, especially when they didn't have to be. While the initial concept of this movie seems creatively bankrupt, there are some great ideas. Jake wants to be a musician, but in order to get famous, he needs to use other people's songs. This sets up a great conflict. Does he play other people's music for money, or stay true to himself by creating songs he's proud of? But this idea is never explored further. Once the world forgets about the Beatles, Jake never shows any interest in writing his own music. It would have been great to see Jake trying to sing original songs only for the public to reject him. But the movie doesn't seem interested in using the experience to say anything other than the Beatles made good music. At one point, someone who also remembers the Beatles tells Jake that he can't write about places he's never been, and it's just so disappointing that they didn't expand upon that. The idea that the Beatles' music is good because it was shaped by the lived experiences of the artists and can't be recreated by simply knowing the words is profound. But this is me interpreting a single line from the movie. Yesterday is insistent on being a Beatles fan service film when there are opportunities for it to be more than that. Nothing is more emblematic of this than the ending. At the Ed Sheeran concert, Jake goes on stage and tells the world that someone else wrote all of the songs he's been singing. He then states that he will no longer be accepting money for the Beatles' work and instead will be putting them all online for free. Then the movie ends with Jake becoming a school teacher who shares the gift of the Beatles with the rest of the world. Jake literally becomes a prophet for the Beatles. This ending only serves to place the Beatles on a pedestal and completely ignores the characters they've established. Jake getting a job as a teacher meant that he would have to give up on being a musician. But it's the right thing to do because the Beatles' music is so important that Jake should give it out for free. Yeah, okay. Try telling that to the Beatles, who all became multi-millionaires. This movie surprised me with how much potential it showed, but it ultimately ended up being exactly what I expected. An entire movie glorifying the Beatles and all their fans. I like the Beatles as much as the next guy, but I don't need an entire movie to tell me that they're great. I'd be willing to see these leads in a different movie, but I never want to see Yesterday again.